Journalists and reporters who go out there to cover elections are just as any frontline workers in any situation. It's just as frontline health workers in COVID. They need protection. They need the equipment and protective gear. Just as frontline workers in the military who go to battlefield, they need protective gear. So it should not be the case that when it comes to journalists or reporters, we say let's throw them in there without any protection or safety measures. It's not just about helmet and also weapons. I'm also talking about awareness, training them how to engage people and knowing their cues when there is a situation that they need to be immediately removed, because you are aware that elections are usually very tense moments and you want to make sure at all times there are layers and layers of protection for the reporters who are on ground. As a ministry, we have a lot of programs in place which are preventative in nature. One of such programs is the coordinated mechanism on the safety of journalists. With that mechanism, we make sure for those who have intention to hurt journalists will not do so, because they know that there are systems in place that will give them safer punishments should they take the risk to infringe upon the rights of journalists or threaten them or attack them. With the mechanism, if you have any instance of attack or intimidation, your first point of call is to go to NMC, who houses the Secretariat for the Coordinated Mechanism on the Safety of Journalists. And then after a validation process, they are able to take up your case and lead you as a collective, as a regulator of content, and as a constitutionally mandated institution that is supposed to take care of your safety. What we experience in the past is that in most instances, threats of attacks or attacks are not even reported by the journalists themselves. And this is backed by studies done by the key media or journalism-based CSOs and even international organizations. But when these are not reported, and then recourse is only to sit on your platform and complain that someone did something to me, the perpetrators will be off the hook. They will go scot-free. Earlier this year, the Ministry of Information held stakeholder engagements with the Judicial Service of Ghana, with the judges, with key players, and pledged our commitment to them that when it comes to matters of journalists and protection of journalists, we are adding our voices to the advocacy for safer punishments. There was also another stakeholder engagement at Alisa, where security agency heads, including the CID boss herself, was there, for us to look at how journalists are handled on the field, and also where there are reports of attacks or threats of attacks, how they are supposed to expedite the processes that will lead to the pursuit of justice. Because sometimes we assume that everyone within the value chain knows what they are supposed to do. When we don't sensitize, we don't educate, it will have to take a real case or a real case scenario before everyone is running around and say, okay, what were we supposed to do in this instance? What we have done as a ministry is to leave a blueprint, so that even in the smallest media house, in the most remotest part of the country, when there is threat or attack on you, you will say that, oh, I heard the minister said there is a coordinated mechanism, so I should go to the National Media Commission, and then use that process to access justice in the absence of the muscle or financial muscle to get legal advice or legal services to pursue same.
Okay.
So, yes, that is one of the things that we've done for the past 2 years. And in the case of, you remember in the case of Caleb Kuda and national security, it was pursued and national security responded and sanctioned because CTFM wrote to the coordinated mechanism on the safety of journalists. And it's because they did validation and pursue a collective action led by the National Media Commission.
Do I get the sense, Minister, from you that until that report is made, even when these attacks are widely reported, there will be no concrete action from your outfit, from the NMC?
Because let's look at the legal regime that operates in Ghana when it comes to criminal proceedings. If there is an attack on you and then you go to the police or anyone who can lead you to the police, they will do an investigation, give the docket to a prosecutor, then they can lead you to prosecute. You as an individual, you don't have prosecutorial powers, but you are a key witness to the case. There are cases that don't move because the witnesses are not willing to come forth. So if there is an attack on you and then you are not empowered or informed to proceed on the legal fronts, the police service themselves cannot hear an attack on radio and then without any statement from you, which will constitute primary evidence, and also with your willingness to cooperate as a witness and say this is what happened to me and that is what happened to me. Because of the rule of law, they will not be able to proceed without your cooperation. But we are saying the cooperation will come when we sensitize practitioners and give them a roadmap with clarity so that they know that if someone slaps me, if someone spoils my recorder, if someone attacks me, my first thought should not be that let me go to my station and go on air and then maybe let's exchange words or insult the person or something. No. My first recourse is that in pursuit of justice, I should go to the police and report and get a statement on that incident, or I should let my media house write to the mechanism so that NMC will take up the case on my behalf. I think that is more defined and more comprehensive than saying, oh, some years ago someone attacked me, I didn't do anything because systems don't work. Systems work when you test it, and Ghanaians know that.
Even when the wheels of justice grind slow. We're talking, let's talk about Amitwale, for instance.
Yes. The wheels of justice grind slowly, but they turn fine. And it is the case because as a lawyer, I know that legal procedure is as important as the substantive case. I've had calls to hold interviews and discuss with some panel members that, you know what, we refer to the Amitwale case, where every single year, when a question is filed in Parliament, as a ministry in the past, Honorable Opon Nkrumah prepared a statement in response of that question. And we don't prepare it in a vacuum. We reach out to the IGP, reach out to the police CID division and say, where are you with the case? Are there any new findings? But mind you, before you proceed to court, you have to proceed on the basis of your confidence in the evidence you have gathered. There are people who belong to the school of thought that at least if you think of anybody, just assemble them and let them be a proceeding, even if they are not found guilty. I don't belong to that school because I think it's an injustice to the family of the people if you are pursuing an action just because of public sentiment and not really to get to the bottom of it and seek justice for the person. So it is important that at all times we encourage the police service, we talk to them, don't let the case go cold. Pursue justice, keep investigation. But when you have satisfactory evidence, then give it to the AG's office for them to prosecute. And sometimes it happens globally and it's painful that there will be some incidents and then the perpetrators will be out there for so long before they are found. But eventually, if there are adequate leads that will lead to the arrest of perpetrators, be rest assured that we are aligned when it comes to advocacy for justice and criminal prosecution for anybody or any perpetrator who thinks it's okay to kill a journalist.
Okay.
So we are not at different ends. We are in same line. We are fighting a common cause. And we are hoping that they will be able to present a docket with the AG's office with sufficient information on potential perpetrators so that they can seek legal action.
In some of the cases of attacks on journalists that we've witnessed in the country, the perpetrators are mainly politically exposed people. What caution are you sending to politicians, political parties about the safety of journalists going into election 2024? Absolutely.
I cannot even talk about consciousness of environment for reporters and journalists and not also talk about the other side, people who are most likely to be perpetrators. Because look at the incidents. If you check the reports that Media Foundation of West Africa brought up, a report that was brought by CDD earlier this year, mainly they will cite security operatives. And along the line, you will find politically exposed persons. Because mostly at elections, at places where some of these incidents occur, are places that there is so much tension, and in the heat of it, some of these things happen. What we have done, the responsibility on our part as a ministry, and let me give you the most recent cases. You remember during the registration in Central Region, there was an alleged attack on a journalist. And then the journalist was able to say that the perpetrators were wearing the T-shirts of a parliamentary candidate and a minister. And because of that, we think if you engage the minister, we should be able to find the perpetrators, because they were hitting me, but they were many, and I didn't really look at them. But I saw some people who were in proximity when the thing was happening. And if I see their pictures, I will be able to identify them. The GJA came up with a media blackout on the minister. We accepted it in good faith. And then we went to sit with the panel comprised of all the media associations. And the minister said, you know what, I wasn't present at the incident. They said I am involved because the perpetrator was wearing my T-shirts. If you have pictures or anything from that day, and you can point any of them in it, I'm willing to use my resources to find those people for us to take them to the police station. Upon investigation and all that, the victim was able to identify some 2 ladies who were there. He said they were not the ones that hit him, but he saw them that day, and they should be able to help with the investigation. As I speak to you, the minister on her own, even though she wasn't present, was the one who found the ladies and marked them to Central Regional Police Station for them to write their statement to assist the investigation. On the second issue about an MP belonging to the ruling party, the MP's engagement with the victim and his media house came to the extent that they said they wanted mediation. The mediation, the Ministry of Information was part, GJ was part, Primpag was part. So sometimes you hear the incidents, but every other steps or activity that follow the incidents, you may not hear. But let me tell you the interesting thing. When the global rankings for Reporters Without Borders came out for 2024, when it comes to safety of journalists, Ghana scored over 82%. A better record than what we have done in previous years. It is the case because it appears to be, or what is the reality is that there are instances like the UTV instance, among others, that it is the Ministry of Information who reported the matter to the police, just to establish that this is not an action sanctioned by government or the ministry or anyone involved in government. So we are giving the blessing and green light for you to proceed with legal action. And I think it's a step in the right direction, because if anyone is contemplating to attack any journalist, they will know that we will not get the minister or anyone at the ministry or in government to come and follow me that we are going to court, because you will be on your own.
Okay, so what I'm getting from you is that as a ministry, the information ministry will not countenance any attacks of journalists going into election 2024.
Absolutely.
That's a promise you're making.
Absolutely. It's not even a promise. It's something that if you ask the media associations, even some of the victims, there hasn't been an instance where an incident has happened and it is reported, or it has come to our attention through social media and we have not reached out to the media house. We have always done that. And when we do that, the message is that what is the next action you want to take? Because we want to help you to take the action. When we heard about the Class FM incidents, I called the chairman of the media group. What is the action you want to take? What do you perceive to be the case? What is the police telling you? What are they doing about it? Would you need government intervention? Do you need us to come out and give public support? Because you also take into consideration what a victim wants in the instance. Is it restitution? Is it deterrence? Is it that they want compensation for medical costs? Is it that they want criminal prosecution? You cannot take up a case that the victim is not interested in. So we always pursue at the instance of the victim and what is in the best interest of the victim.
Okay, so this is my final question,
Okay.
and I appreciate your time here
That's
on
fine.
12 Live. You've referenced the press freedom ranking by Reporters Without Borders. In that ranking, they raise a very serious issue about media organizations being owned by politicians and how
Absolutely.
that is affecting the credibility of the journalism we're doing in the country. As an information minister, how worrying is it for you, and what steps would you take to remedy the situation?
Okay, first of all, let's look at the current dispensation and regarding media ownership and operation. It is Article 21 of the 1992 Constitution. It has removed censorship when it comes to media. And then you look at the provisions under the functions of the National Media Commission in Article 164, 162 in the Constitution as well. The Constitution guarantees freedom of expression, including free media, without qualification as to who can own media. Before the Constitution, the 1992 Constitution coming into force in 1993, we had one radio station, one TV station. In fact, if you hijack a TV station, the next time you are a president and a coup leader, just through a broadcast, I'm in charge, Ghanaians, I'm informing you that I have taken over the country, so take note. It was as simple as that. I believe because of incidents in our recent history that made the drafters of the Constitution decide that let us remove the issue of censorship. So in Ghana, legally, no censorship. For electronic media, because spectrums are limited resources, that is why if it is TV, radio, they would have to reach out to NCA for the broadcast license. If you are on the T1, of course, GBC holds the ownership over T1. But if it's the DTT T2 platform, then the Ministry of Communication and the National Communication Authority. Now, this is what has happened. Because of the no censorship regime, and I'm saying no censorship means it has no qualification that you're a politician, you shouldn't own media, and any laws or pronouncements or statutes or any provisions or policies that are inconsistent with the 1992 Constitution is null and void. So you cannot even as a minister make a declaration that from henceforth we are not going to allow any politician to own a media house or anything of that sort. Now, what we have currently is that NCA, as at December 2023, has licensed over 720 radio stations. More than 150 radio stations. And let me come to today. Active radio stations, 550 across the country. Active TV stations, about 170. I'm using 170 because those are the ones that NCA monitors for egregious contents. Imagine a country with a population of 32 million, with 550 radio stations, more radio stations than constituencies, more radio stations than districts. It's like every corner you wake up, you can open a new station. If the industry does not take the decision that the proliferation has reached an extent that practicing, yes, it is colorful, it is vibrant, but look at the statistics and the audience share and how viable the business models are. We will have a situation whereby everybody will open every day, but they are fighting over the same pool of adverts, fighting over the same pool of audience share, and they will not be able to meet their obligations towards their operational costs and also salaries and conditions of service for staff. And that is why when you look at the ranking, since they introduced economic indicator in 2022, Ghana has been dropping. Because the economic indicator, we've been scoring between 49% and 47%. So these are real challenges that the solutions will come from the stakeholders.
Themselves?
Yes.
Okay.
Because if now you say you are too many, which radio or TV station should shut down? If they rather say that we think the regime is not viable, is not sustainable, let us have some syndications, join some media houses and operations, and instead of sole ownership, let us have some JVs or partnerships where we are joining assets and taking shares and building rather bigger but more viable media houses rather than everyone opening one every day. And even those who want to open new ones, they are not stopped by law to do so.
Okay.
If you want to open newspaper tomorrow, you are good to go. Nobody can, no government, nobody can stop you. And unfortunately, that is our current dispensation. It's beautiful, but it is not viable. But in conclusion, there is an international fund for public interest media, which has been in the offing since 2015. By the grace of God, President Nana Addo Dankwa Akufo-Addo, through Honorable Opon Nkrumah, lobbied for the regional office for Africa and Middle East to be brought to Ghana. As I speak to you, Ghana has won the bid.
Wow.
The regional director for Africa and Middle East is here. IFM is like the IMF of media houses. So that if you are struggling with operational budgets, you are struggling with equipment, salaries, you can apply to the fund as a public interest media. And then you'll be able to access some revenues. And it's one of the reasons why we are on tour to sensitize Ghanaian media to take advantage of the proximity and also reach out to get something immediately to support the operations.
Thank you very much. We're so grateful for your time on the extended version of 12 Live. We've just been speaking to the newly approved Minister for Information, Fatima Abubakar. She is on a working visit to ZFM, and she was gracious enough to spare us a few minutes on our midday bulletin here on Z101.9 FM.